You crash land on an alien world, meeting a Stone Age race which lives for 6 months at a time. It has been 25 years since you landed here, and you've become quite a celebrity. I was 28 when I first landed, although landed is perhaps an overgenerous term. Needless to say, I arrived, and the manner of my arrival left me acutely unwell. I suspected at the time that I had broken several major bones and attained serious internal injuries, but looking back now I realize that must not have been the case. If it had been, I surely would have perished, for the people who found me had little knowledge of anatomy, medicine, or even of the greater schema of human existence. I should mention the people, of course. To the naked eye, there would be little to distinguish them from you or I. Humanoid, 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 eyes, 1 head. In truth, in almost all particulars, they were our twins. Perhaps then I should list their differences, out of respect of brevity. They each have unbelievably violet eyes, whether as a result of a different evolutionary environ, or mutation, or sickness, I cannot not say, but invariably their eyes glow a maleficent lavender. They each are frail, sickly things, vulnerable to injury, disease, and wasting, lacking the vitality and resilience that one would expect of humans as we know. Perhaps in relation to the above, they also live short, meager lives. Each man and women among them lives an average lifespan not exceeding 6 months. Though this may seem brutally short to you and I, amongst them, a 7-month birthday is considered a singular honor of longevity. I will quickly interject to mention that we are not referencing children. The 6-month landscape along which these humanoids trudge takes them along the full path. Up the hill from birth to adolescence, summiting in middle age and a gentle declination towards death. So there you have it, the people I find myself marooned amongst. They live in small Stone Age villages, and to them I was a novelty. When they pulled me from the wreck of the crash, they first thought me a god or a demon, but in short order my howls and whimpers of pain dissuaded them of that notion. What god or demon ever cried tears of agony? A wanderer, they concluded, cast adrift on the divine winds by the gods. A penitent, perhaps, or a lost hero. They dragged me to a hut and laid me in a cot. I was attended by several of the women of the village, who evidently were the pinnacle of medical care. What they administered was mostly cold bandages and questionable poultices. A woman, who appeared to be no older than 35, stood over me and held her hand to her sternum. "Rowantha," she cooed, then placed her hand meaningfully on my chest. Through my whimpers I managed a response. "Gyron." She smiled at me, and the image was burned in my brain. The lines and symmetries of her face, the small scar along the line of her nose, the jet-black hair. After that, the next 2 weeks passed me by in a fever fugue as my body fought off the infections and wounds of my arrival. When my true awakening dawned, I found myself much better attended. I will clarify here again, for it must be clear, I was not venerated as a god, but I was respected. They would come every day, a procession, washing my wounds and limbs, stroking my hair and my limbs. There was marvel in their eyes, and each would touch their hand to their chest and speak their names. In the corner, Rowantha always sat vigilantly. She was not as I remembered. Her eyes were more sunken, the lines of her face harsher, and her hair was beginning to show flecks of snow. But I recovered, and I learned. Rowantha taught me herself, in the small, simple abode we shared. That time was happy, and I recount it sparsely here, for it is private and not to be shared. When I threw the last petal on upturned ground of her grave marker not 3 months later, I realized she had taught me enough. By this time I had been in the village for half a local lifetime, and to the eyes of the people around me, I had not aged a day. I was de facto in charge by now, revered for my knowledge, though basic, of medicine, agriculture, and, I am ashamed to admit, warfare. The village of dozens had already grown to hundreds, most assimilated through conquest. Rowantha was dead in the ground, and I realized soon every villager would follow, and the generation after, and the one after that. No human attachment was left to me that would not wither in my hands, and then I would be petals on the ground too. With that knowledge held solely on my shoulders, I made a decision. I would build something to endure with me,